Hello, my name is Kalen Simpson, and today I'm going to be giving a brief overview of the prop editor tool that I made for Alberio. Now, the prop editor tool at its core is just a more efficient way of placing objects in Unreal, specifically in a room environment where you're using a lot of small props like placing pencils and paper on a desk. Now, to open it, you just run the editor utility widget, and you'll immediately see that it displays all the props in your game in a very easy to access and visualize manner. It's also you can also filter it by, for example, selecting static mesh, and it'll only display the static mesh props. Or maybe you want the blueprint props, or the blueprint props that are interactable, or the blueprint interactable props that are items. Additionally, you could do any combination of these, such as displaying the light sources. Now, how this works is you just select an object, and it'll appear right in front of your camera. And you can basically drag it around anywhere, and it will snap to its pivot, similar to if you were dragging it out of the content browser. However, the difference is, if you are on the side where it'll go through the wall because it's not lined up with its pivot, you can rotate it without placing it. So you can see I can rotate it like this, and now I can continue to place it against the wall like so. Now, this is different than if I were just to grab a desk out of the content browser, because you can see that not only can I not move it around because I can't rotate the camera, but I can't rotate the object. So if I wanted to place it here, I would have to place it, adjust my camera, rotate it, and then move it back in, which is nowhere near as efficient as what I did with the prop editor down there. This is especially helpful when you are placing small items, like if I just were to populate, I didn't hit place there. If you were just to populate this with, say, some small props, which I'll do now. Let's try this coffee cup. You could put a coffee cup on there and just kind of move around the, actually I'll like that. Move around the editor, placing, one there. We can place one there. We can also grab maybe a keyboard and rotate the keyboard and easily place it on the desk because it's snapping right to it. And this works for any object in the game. It'll work for, say, lights, which pivot onto the ceiling. So you see that this ceiling light will snap to the right depth in the ceiling, as well as this cable here will snap to the wall. If I place it like that, you can see that it's placed perfectly on the wall. Now, if you do not want the auto snapping feature and you just want to use this for an easy way to get to props, because if you were to look in the content browser here, you can see that the props folder isn't nearly as efficient to navigate because each type of prop has its own folder that you need to get into, and then you need to find the mesh. Whereas this is just immediately showing the various props. But if you didn't want to use the auto snapping, you could disable it, and this would basically set it to a flat position in front of your camera, which is equal to this zoom bar here. So if we decrease the zoom bar, you can see that it just goes through things. It doesn't bother to snap, but you can still do that if you want to, just to use it as a way of getting props out easier. But I recommend, and it is usually used by artists and designers on the team with the zoom, or with the auto snapping on, which you can see, regardless of how high the zoom is, it will still snap to the walls. So I think that'll be it for this demonstration. That was the prop editor.